Have you ever felt like someone close to you was acting distant? Maybe they've started to pull away, or you sense something's off, but they're not saying it directly. What if I told you that this cold behavior could be a sign of something deeper, something hidden beneath the surface? In today's video, we're diving into Carl Jung's psychological insights to reveal the cold signs that someone close to you secretly despises you. It's not always obvious, but subtle shifts in behavior can speak volumes. So if you've ever wondered if someone's feelings have changed towards you, stick around because we're about to uncover the truth behind those signs. And before we get started, make sure to hit subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss out on more insights like these. Let's get into it. 1. Projection of negative emotions. Let's jump right into one of the most fascinating aspects of human behavior: projection. Have you ever had someone suddenly treat you differently, almost like you've done something wrong, but you have no idea what changed? Maybe they start picking fights over small things or making you feel bad about your actions without reason. You haven't done anything wrong, but suddenly, the tension between you and this person is palpable. Well, this could be projection in action. Projection, as Carl Jung explained, is when someone projects their own negative emotions, things they're not ready to confront, onto someone else. It's like they've got a mirror in their mind, and instead of facing their own inner turmoil, they reflect it onto you. Let me give you an example. If someone is feeling frustrated or jealous, but doesn't want to face those emotions, they might accuse you of being angry or selfish, even though you're not. It's like they're wearing emotional blinders that prevent them from seeing the situation clearly, and instead, they see their negative feelings in you. Think of it this way. If someone is feeling insecure about their own life or making poor decisions, rather than confronting these feelings, they could start directing their dissatisfaction toward you. They may lash out with little comments like, "You never do anything right," or "I don't know why you act like that," even though it has nothing to do with you. These projections are their emotional baggage, not yours. It's all about them, not you. Why does this happen? It's because dealing with our own feelings can be uncomfortable. We don't want to admit to ourselves that we're frustrated or jealous, so instead, we blame others for it. If you're the person they're closest to, you might unintentionally become the target of these projections. It's almost like their subconscious is trying to protect them from facing their own inner chaos by creating an external scapegoat. So how can you tell if you're dealing with projection? Well, pay attention to the pattern. If you notice that someone keeps accusing you of things you didn't do or acting strangely defensive when you don't deserve it, projection might be at play. This can cause a lot of emotional confusion, especially when they've never confronted their own emotions honestly. But here's the key. Don't internalize their anger, jealousy, or fear. It's not about you, it's about what they're trying to avoid within themselves. 2. Emotional withdrawal and coldness. Now let's talk about something that can feel really hurtful and confusing: emotional withdrawal. Imagine this. You've always had a strong bond with someone, maybe a friend, a partner, or even a family member, and then out of nowhere they start acting distant. They're not as warm, they don't open up to you like they used to, and every conversation seems colder than the last. You try to reach out, but it feels like they're pushing you away, and the energy between you just doesn't feel the same. This subtle but painful shift is what we call emotional withdrawal. Jung believed that when people feel overwhelmed by emotions they can't process, they often retreat into themselves, especially if they're hiding feelings of anger, guilt, or resentment. If someone secretly despises you, they might start emotionally distancing themselves because it's easier than confronting those uncomfortable feelings. Instead of confronting the root of the issue, they withdraw to avoid vulnerability or conflict. The problem is that this behavior can make you feel like you've done something wrong, even though you haven't. The tricky part about emotional withdrawal is that it's silent. It's not always obvious, like a loud argument or a fight. Instead, it creeps in over time, leaving you wondering what happened to that connection you once had. At first, it might be subtle. Fewer phone calls, less eye contact, shorter responses, but over time, it can feel like they've built an emotional wall between you. You might even start to feel like a stranger to them, and you're left in the dark, unsure if it's something you did or if it's just them pulling away from you. But here's the thing, it's not about you. It's about their inability to process their own emotions and their need to hide behind a wall of coldness to protect themselves from feeling vulnerable. You might wonder, why does this happen? The answer is simple. When someone is overwhelmed by negative feelings, whether it's anger, guilt, or frustration, they can't always face those emotions head-on. So, they shut down emotionally, not just with others, but often with themselves too. Instead of expressing their feelings directly, they put up a barrier, distancing themselves emotionally and leaving you out in the cold. If you notice someone close to you becoming more distant, don't immediately take it personally. It's important to recognize that their withdrawal is a defense mechanism, not necessarily a reflection of how they feel about you. If you feel like the distance is growing, it might be time to have an open and honest conversation. Understanding why they're withdrawing can help you approach the situation with more empathy and less frustration. 3. Passive-aggressive behavior and subtle criticism. Now, let's get into something that can really mess with your head. Passive-aggressive behavior. This is where someone's negative feelings toward you don't come out in the open, but instead, they get channeled through indirect actions or remarks. You won't hear them say outright that they're angry or upset with you, but you'll definitely feel the tension and frustration. Picture this. You're having a conversation, and suddenly they make a comment that seems like a compliment, but it's actually a subtle jab. Something like, "Wow, I never thought you'd pull that off," or "You're actually doing better than I thought you would." It doesn't seem like a big deal at first, but there's something off about it. The words are polite, but the tone is cold, and you can sense that there's more to it. That's passive-aggressive behavior at work. What makes passive-aggressive behavior so dangerous is that it's hard to confront. It's not as straightforward as someone openly criticizing you. Instead, they hide their true feelings behind sarcasm, backhanded compliments, or subtle put-downs that leave you wondering if you're just overreacting. You might feel off, confused, or even doubting yourself, but you can't quite put your finger on why. So, why does this happen? The truth is, some people are unwilling or unable to express their anger, resentment, or disappointment directly. They might be afraid of confrontation, or maybe they've learned to suppress their emotions for fear of rejection or judgment. Instead of confronting the issue head-on, they resort to indirect forms of expressing their dissatisfaction, like making little digs, giving you the silent treatment, or purposely forgetting important things in your relationship. It's also important to recognize that these subtle criticisms aren't always random. They often serve as a way to control, a tactic to make you feel small without them having to deal with the confrontation. This passive-aggressive approach gives them a way to express their negative emotions without taking responsibility for them, making it harder for you to call them out or challenge their behavior. You might feel exhausted by these little jabs, unsure of how to address them without seeming like you're overreacting. But here's the thing. Recognizing passive-aggressive behavior is the first step in protecting yourself. The next time you notice these subtle digs or passive remarks, try not to internalize them. These remarks say more about the person making them than about you. Their inability to communicate openly is the issue, not your worth or actions. To sum it up, we've uncovered 3 major signs that someone close to you may secretly harbor negative feelings: projection of emotions, emotional withdrawal, and passive-aggressive behavior. These signs aren't about you, they're reflections of unresolved issues in the other person. When you notice these behaviors, remember, their negativity is their burden, not yours. The key is to not internalize it. If you can, try addressing it directly or setting boundaries to protect your peace. And always remember, your worth isn't defined by how others project their unresolved emotions onto you. If this video helped you gain a deeper understanding, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more insights into human psychology.